Welcome everyone to Ladder Daily Digest. Today we're doing conference predictions, and I have invited some powerhouses in our own little world, in our own mind. And we have She Became Visible, Renee Steelman. And we have Megan Connor, Debbie Donovan, Brother Jones, Carrie Schertz, and we might have some other people come in as well here and there.
And Gene Judson.
And to make sure that we actually get one prediction right, I'm going to predict right now that more men will speak in conference than women. That way we have we're 100% so far.
That is prolific. That is,
and I've got a prediction that will absolutely match you with 100% accuracy. The women will not be given the priesthood this conference.
I agree.
I thought the girls would be at least allowed to pass the sacrament like a server.
Nope. Too much threat against the boys.
yeah.
Dang.
That would take.
I thought at least the 12-year-olds would get a compass.
So let's see. We'll have Renee go first with a prediction, and we'll sort of go around the horn and see what happens.
I want to hear your joke. You said you had a good joke, Renee.
Oh, you mean no? Gene had. You want me to tell my dad joke or?
Well, yeah, that was about the best dad joke I've ever heard.
This was a dad joke in honor of Carrie and his infamous dad jokes. I said, "How do you know if it's a dad joke?" Well, it should be apparent.
There you go.
It still makes me laugh.
Yeah. My older brother is a professional comedian. He is not laughing. He is shaking.
Oh, well, it's his bias. Just ignore him. He's a sibling.
There you go. Okay, so my prediction, and I don't know how this is going to come off, but because President Oaks is actually running the show right now. We all know that. Russell is probably still batting balloons. He still thinks he's at his party. And Wendy's still holding his arm very affectionately. And I just have to inject here. If you go back and watch like the last 5 years of Wendy and Russell together, their body language is so telling. I wish there was a body language expert, but she is always like clinging on to him, and he's almost like, yeah. His body language is almost like, it's so fascinating. But anywho, so because Oaks is running the show right now, I am predicting that either he or all of his minions will somehow reiterate the policy that he just put out, that he just sent out to all the bishops and stake presidents about how they need to start conducting more disfellowships or excommunications. They need to start cracking the whip. So I don't know how they're going to verbalize it, but there's going to be this is going to be not quite the jolly, happy. There's going to be a little bit more. You people need to start following the rules, because if not, there's going to be consequences. And I'm to see how they're going to lovingly present that in a loving way. Holland will cry. Irene will cry. I love you. Please follow the rules. Please follow the rules. We love you so much. We hate to have to kill you like King George. I have to kill your family and your friends to show you of my love. That's what it'll be. It'll be one of those.
Don't make me shed blood. That's too close to blood atonement. Please.
Yeah, I think she's won like the bingo card there with all of those predictions.
I know I've got that song in my head, and I'm not going to be able to get it out. I'm going to be singing to remind you of my love. Do, 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 do. Yeah. So there we go. Now you all have it.
Okay, so let's go with Megan. Megan, do you have?
Megan, bring us back to home.
Well, I don't know where home is at this point.
Is it nicer than the apocalypse, Mormon?
I honestly don't know. I'm going to agree with Renee, because I really think that there's going to be a crackdown, and I think it's going to come from the place of, we don't want to excommunicate you, but we have to because we love you. I think there's going to be some kind of rhetoric like that. I think there's going to be that kind of crackdown on, like, if you're speaking out against the brethren, we're not going to have any activism against the church policies. We're not going to have any pushback against people who tell lies, even if they're people in positions of power. We're not going to offer apologies. So if you are going to push back against the official narrative, I'm sorry, we love you, but we're going to excommunicate you. It's a court of love. It's a membership withdrawal. It's not, we're not going to actually excommunicate you. We're just going to tell you you're not welcome. So it's going to be that kind of a rhetoric, I think. So I agree with you, Renee. And then the other thing that I'm going to predict is that there's going to be a Henry be crying, and he is going to do some kind of a death march story where somebody died, but somebody also followed the spirit. And so that meant that they were supposed to die. Do you have the faith not to be healed? Which brings me to my other prediction that David Bednar is going to tell us that we are all doing something completely wrong.
Yeah.
We thought we were doing right from the beginning, but it's actually totally wrong. And we need to completely reframe the way that we think of it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, he's going to that is excellent, Megan, because I was just reviewing his agency talks when he said, I know that his tone, the way he delivers. I know that most of you, when you read this scripture, you thought that it was saying blah, blah, blah. But in actuality, it was saying you have made a covenant. You have given. That's not what agency means. And I remember reading that.
It was free agency, but it's actually moral agency.
Moral agency, yeah.
Different from free agency, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie, we're going to have a tough time topping that one. I hope you're ready.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And in honor of Megan, I
got notes.
In honor of Megan, I want to say that I think that Visions of Glory will be canonized.
I wrote that down. I literally wrote that down as my most bombastic thing.
I think that would be the new
canonized Visions of Glory. Oh my gosh, we're on the same page.
I call it
So I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in around 2015, Thomas S. Monson gave a talk where he basically sanctified the saint of this guy. I can't remember exactly his name. It was Brother M or something like that. And I kept trying to figure out what in the world he was talking about. This guy who was a sealer in the temple, who had some like really profound interactions with President Monson. And President Monson was like basically trying to say this guy is beyond reproach. He's beyond impeachment. I could not figure out what's going on. The only thing I can think is that maybe he was about to be second anointed, and he just wanted people to know that that's how holy of a person he was. So maybe we're heading into the same thing with Tom Harrison at this point. Maybe Tom Harrison is going to be sanctified in this conference as somebody who is the oracle, the visionary, who is beyond reproach, who's deserving of all of our praise.
Yeah.
That's right.
They have a huge following. It is massive. It's more popular than Russell.
Let's hear a couple from Debbie.
Phew, I don't know. You guys just took my thunder. Okay.
You could just say it again. Pretend you didn't hear anybody say it.
I would say now to top that, they're going to mention BYU Med School and Rusty's legacy, because he is literally like throwing out all the cards.
Oh yeah, it'll be the Russell Nelson Medical School.
Yeah, there's no question. Yep.
Right.
And I think they're gonna mention Rusty turning 100 at least 10 times in every session of conference. Like, he made 100.
Our beloved 100-year-old prophet.
And we're so thankful he's still here among us.
You know what the weird thing is that they wheeled out Jimmy Carter, who just had his 100th.
Yes.
Like that guy, I mean, like, that's elder abuse. He's like,
yeah.
So they're gonna be like, look at our prophet versus your president. Hey.
Yeah.
So
but see, they don't know how to use AI. like Nelson's gang does. So that's
Nelson is super AI.
The
In
prophets
fact, I
have
don't
been
think
used.
Nelson will even be at any conference. He'll have a pre-scripted delivered on Sunday.
yeah.
And I think Oaks will only speak once, and it will be from that wheeling pulpit where they like put the desk in front of him,
Oh.
and he doesn't have to stand before the congregation. Those are my predictions, just on a basic.
I just like to say the prophets have been using AI since the seer stone. It's all been artificial.
There you go.
Okay, I will say this. So
They have been ahead of the game. Yeah.
I wanted to feel like inspired to like be a part of this conversation with smart people, of course. So I went to, because I live in Salt Lake, the Mormon Museum,
Ooh.
Mormon History Museum. And I haven't been there in probably 15 years. Forever. And I live like literally 3 blocks away. So hey, it's free. I'll walk through. It's conference weekend. I need some information to talk about. The weird thing is that they did talk about Joseph Seer Stone. They had pictures on the wall of him translating. Like there's this thing with a tablecloth over it. Like that's apparently the books. And then Joseph with a hat in his hand. But then they talked about like even Emma made this cool bag to protect his stone. And I'm like, oh my God, even Emma was in on it. She made a nutsack for this guy. I mean,
There you
I
go.
wanted to take pictures, but
She was an athletic supporter of his.
Yeah.
she was totally the jock strap
Yeah.
of the rock and the hat moment. And
The question,
go
though,
to the museum. It's super free. It's super weird.
but the question is, when did they put that display up? That's the question.
Okay, that was never, because I remember going through probably 10 years ago with my friend, and we saw the masks, and you can see the presidents and their stuff, and then the like Mormon Pioneer Track. You know what you should see after the nutsack bag is the art museum. There was some weird art.
Oh,
I even sent it to Jean, right? Jean?
Right. Yeah.
Like
Cool.
there, I only sent Jean like half the pictures I took, but some of that is like literally super creepy that I've seen in just like cool museums, not religious art.
Huh.
But also like there was one that was in total Arabic, and I was sending it to a friend who speaks Arabic. I'm like, what is this? What does this mean? I mean, there was it's free.
You didn't see Nephi's painting of the tree of life in there, did you?
No, but there was a lot of interpretations from other countries that came on board of the tree and that life, like from Nigeria, from like they had brought in other artists' interpretation of Mormonism and put it on
That might be
display.
interesting. Yeah.
Some of that's
Which
probably
was new.
from a competition that they've held over the years, and
Or
they
from prior
buy-
exhibits. Like I would believe
yeah.
that for sure.
yeah.
as if
But then-
Mormonism came up with the tree of life, like it wasn't a Celtic symbol or a Grecian symbol or any of that, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Grecian symbol,
have a tree
Michelle
of
from Greece.
Wait,
Yeah,
wait,
I was just waving at Michelle. She was saying hi. So
that's
hi,
my
Michelle.
right
So we
there.
have Bangkok, Thailand, and Greece
Yeah.
represented.
So I took one for the team. I went to the museum.
There you go.
You are the woman, man.
Okay. So who wants to go next? Backyard Professor or Brother Jones?
Brother
I'll
Jones, you've got the floor, my man.
I'll get this over with.
Oh,
Yeah,
first of all,
so-
Brother Jones, we'd like to thank Puzzle Pieces. Megan,
Oh,
are
yes.
you familiar with Puzzle Pieces? There you go. So thanks to Puzzle Pieces for
Yep, friends of the channel.
There you go.
Yeah, you're up in your game, Gene. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime Megan comes on, and Renee or Debbie, I'm upping my game. When the backyard professor comes on,
That's not right.
Okay, go.
So
brother.
my prediction might be more of an idea, but with the robust and growing missionary program, they're going to need a new referral program. Okay, so I predict that maybe the church will begin taking out full-page ads in the top 20 newspapers in America, in the world, really. And like once a week, full-page ad. If they really want to get their message out, they can afford a full-page ad. I was running the numbers. I think it would cost about $30 million a year to take a full-page ad out in the top 20 newspapers around the world. Maybe let's go top 50. And start getting those missionaries referrals that they desperately need.
Hey,
how's that for an idea?
Got the headlines.
Yeah.
Please come to our church. We're not Mormon anymore.
That's true.
There you go.
Or it's just gonna say the covenant path.
We no longer give Satan the victory.
Yeah,
I will say in that museum there was still a lot of reference to Mormons, so I felt like I was in the Museum of Satan a little bit.
Yeah. That's a fine line. We walk there.
Now, if you would have had the priesthood, you could have cast Satan out.
That's right.
Like the church lady.
But if we think about the amount of money they have to get the message out, whatever you want to call the message, they could buy the top 20 newspapers in the world. They could buy them, Twitter, and use that as their platform. Yeah. What did Twitter cost? Must cost them what, 40 billion or something? They could buy Twitter. I'll bet you Elon Musk would want to sell Twitter right now if he could, especially if he could turn a profit.
Like Mark would want to sell Facebook too. Like those, the stock.
Yeah.
So
Think about it. Think about
You're
it. If
right
they
on.
really want to get the message out that the end is nigh, why wouldn't they do that? So maybe I'm giving them an idea.
Without even touching their capital, because they've got $1 billion in excess tithing every year. And so they could spend that $1 billion on ad spend and it would be well worth their money.
Yeah.
So they just came out with the top list of the richest people in the world. And of course, Elon Musk is at the top with 270.5 billion. I think the church could overtake that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You've got to understand they already have overtaken it. They're just not going to tell us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's behind the scenes.
That's right.
Yep.
That's like when you said, Backyard Professor, that their stock portfolio mattered. I was like, no, because if we got rid of it, it would be absolved by other companies, just like Bain Capital. Hello, Mitt Romney theory of like absolving companies and absorbing them without ruining anyone's stock investments. Like literally, I think like the church could go away and other companies would absorb it.
Interesting. Is
Especially
that a prediction
they
for
have
this
a huge
conference?
real estate portfolio. Their real estate portfolio is I'm gonna say tits.
Yeah, well, the problem is they have no seaside property for sale in Montana, so I'm not all that impressed. I'm just saying.
Sean actually gets the show. Are these people morons? That's right.
Is he talking about us? Yeah. It's about time.
None of us passed our Temple Recommend interviews.
Some of us are ex-morons.
How dare you say moron? It's the
Don't
church.
you know that's a victory for Natas?
There you go.
Twin brother. Natas just got the victory.
Moron's a victory for Satan.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So I was thinking in line with the sort of missionary effort, prediction. I was thinking an actual prediction might be that missionaries will be able to select a few potential places they want to go.
Oh, they'll have some
And
say.
so they'll have
That would
some
be
say
cool.
in the
Hawaii's
matter.
not that big. Hawaii just can't take that many.
Because I've been hearing on some Mormon stories episodes where people thought they had a revelation of where they were going to serve, and then they didn't get to go to where they thought that God had told them. Like in the temple, they had a warm feeling, and they just knew that that's where they were going to serve, and then it didn't happen. So if you give people like 5 potential places to go, you can still probably figure out, how to divvy up everybody.
I like that one because other missions or any other humanitarian work that you want to participate in allows you to choose like where you want to go serve. Like I want to help feed children in Africa, or I want to go do this or this or this. Like any other religion or like even like nonprofit allows you to take your skills and then put them out there to serve. And I believe
That's right.
maybe
Is that
they
what-
might.
Sean wants us to
do that.
realize that he wasn't calling us morons. He was wondering if we were Mormons. And so I still consider myself Mormon.
He got it right the first time.
Raise your hand if you still consider yourself Mormon in a way.
Yeah. Only because every time I say
I'll
something,
do
I
a half hand.
or they or us, and I have
Culturally, I
saying
still
not
like
Mormon.
green Jello with carrots
I'm
in it.
still on the record, and my parents still are Mormon,
Oh,
Right.
but I'm also a Catholic on record, so I'm like a 2-part.
Whoa, we're not worthy.
You're in. You got it covered.
I'm
I
Buddhist
got
Mormon.
both bases.
So Maven has a prediction. No more
Oh,
than
what is
4 women will have speaking prayer roles. So she's going to limit it to 4.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We have to top last year.
3 speeches. I remember when I first heard somebody say
It's hard
they
though
were
to
giving a
find women
speech
to
in
speak
church.
because it's like they don't allow people with brunettes. They don't allow brunettes to speak. Only blondes. If you've
Dude, I'm
noticed.
gonna have to dye my hair.
Yeah, and you have to have a journalist bob, swings parted on the right over to the left-hand side. That is a rule, mandatory rule. Especially except for Sister crud. What's her name? She's the young women's. Anyway, she's got that weird haircut. I'm like, I don't know what's going on there, but yeah.
And I need to get my baby speak down. And so
There you go.
sisters,
So,
we
yeah.
all love to serve and exalt everyone in the kingdom of God. How was that?
Not bad.
Julie Beck was pretty good about not doing that. I always liked her because of that, and of course, Sister Okasaki. She was.
And I liked Sherry Dew for that reason too.
Yeah, in the
She was
beginning,
very
I did.
concise.
Yeah, those were the ones. Otherwise, that was
You
the kind
know,
of sandwich.
so there's been a lot of talk the past few years about changes to the word of wisdom. So maybe the half measure will be decaf is okay.
Decaf
I was
coffee.
hoping that they are going to change like the temple like questions of worthiness, because now they need to get people into those buildings that they've built and apparently they're empty. But I think they might go a little lax on that. And we talked about that. I want to bring them coffee. Every mom says I need a cup of Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to vote for Kamala then?
Yeah, that way. I thought that a couple years ago. I thought they would make a change and make it just alcohol and tobacco. They would cut out the tea and coffee part. If you want to see a deluge of a flood of people leaving, just make Diet Coke. We have now
100%.
There you go.
add Diet
That's
Coke.
exactly right.
Yeah, Diet Coke is now part of the word of wisdom. You cannot drink Diet Coke. You would see the floodgates open, and people would be like, "I'm out of here. Goodbye."
Well, the weird
Not
part
only
was I
that-
had Mormons who I worked with, and they would be like drinking those 5-hour energy shots, like they were like a breakfast drink.
Yeah.
And I'm like, But you won't drink a cup of coffee? Like coffee is a little more nice to your body.
Well, that's because they don't heat up those energy drinks. The word of wisdom is about hot drinks, Debbie.
Gotta be
There you
hot.
go.
So
Gotta be
iced coffee's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why
Temperature
all
matters.
my Mormon friends still go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Could be. Yeah.
You know, if you really want people to leave, we can start enforcing that part of the word of wisdom that says fruits and vegetables only in their season.
Yes.
Eating
And
meat sparingly.
Yes.
Oh,
I mean, I've never heard anybody go to the bishop and be, you know, in tears because they ate an entire steak one night. But if we started enforcing that, I think people would leave.
I actually
You know what,
had
girl?
a
You're
bishop
100% right.
not give a friend of mine, her daughter had an eating disorder, and she came home from her mission and needed to renew her temple recommend, and he would not renew her temple recommend because she had an eating disorder.
No,
That is power. That is a power trip.
Bishop Roulette.
that is heinous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bishop Roulette, 100%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm going to go slap my bishop for that. Oh,
Well, they did go above
You
his
slap
head.
mine.
They went to the stake president, and he did overrule the guy. But that's just the scary part. That's just the scary part. But
that'd
yeah,
make you want to go to church, wouldn't it? Boy.
yeah. I can't have now. See, when is the new garments? When is that coming out? Are those in the stores
Oh.
now?
Oh,
Are they gonna get tank
we're not
top
supposed to talk
garments?
about it because we're not in the temple, so we can't talk about it.
Okay. Just call it underwear. When
Renee, you keep your covenants, damn it.
Do you think they'll change something about when you can or cannot wear the garment? Or
doubt
do you think they'll change again the sleeve length and the leg length again?
All I want to say is that my crazy cousin Lori called it back in 2004 when she said, all you need is a little bra and panty with the right markings, and that's it. You don't really have to do the whole thing. So
Mormons
done that
will
a
be
long time ago.
tattooing the compass on their body and then navel and knee mark.
And then
Well,
no
I mean,
need
yeah.
for the white stuff.
That actually makes sense.
Our
Or
temples,
the
our
underwear.
bodies are the temple after
Exactly. Our bodies are the temple garment. The end. We're done.
all. Our bodies are the temple.
That's right.
So
Oh,
yeah.
But it'll be more
So-
like Keith.
Yeah,
You
but
guys
the
will vote for
problem
Nino
is,
the prophet.
can they excommunicate you for the tattoos? Because they don't like
Oh.
tattoos.
So keep your eyes on the job boards, Gene. Maybe they'll announce they need a tattoo artist. They're starting to hire tattoo artists and all the,
So
local
I have
temple-
20-year-old
temples.
tattoos that should have gotten me X'd. I would love to see those tattoos become like my sacred symbols. Hello.
I'd just love to see the tattoos.
Oh, I got wings on my back.
Oh,
I
nice.
guarantee
And a lizard on
you,
my ankle and a gecko on my ankle. I changed colors.
if somebody went into their bishop and said that they had tattooed the markings onto their body, guarantee you the bishops would be like, well, let me see. I got to make sure.
Oh, you
Did
got
you
the
get
compass.
tattooed in
You got the
multiple
compass on the wrong
positions?
side, you idiot. We got to excommunicate you.
Did you self-tattoo?
Yeah.
Hi, Lila.
Was it
Hi,
over the
Lila.
skin or under the skin?
Well, getting back to the subject, we've gone so far up. Getting back to the subject, that when Oaks is in charge, that the proclamation to the world, the family proclamation, will be put into the Doctrine and Covenants. It will be made one of the declarations, and it will be added. It will be canonized under his power and authority.
So the printing presses will be running, and the shop will be selling new versions of the scriptures.
Yeah.
It's
There you
gonna
go.
And they'll make $1 trillion
Good for
profit,
business.
even frame
Good
it.
for
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Brother Jones has it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything good for business, they'll do.
Yeah, because then it can be, it's scripture. So the marriage, then all of the roles that it declares in that proclamation will be scripture from God. It won't just be, a proclamation. It will be scripture. So that I know Oaks is going to do that. I feel strongly that Oaks is going to do that.
Oaks is waiting to like floodgate. He's sad he's gotten so old. He didn't know Rusty was going to live so long.
Well, they need an attorney at the helm anyway for all the lawsuits they're going to be dealing with.
That's
So,
exactly right.
Yeah.
That they are
like I
dealing
said,
with
we had
already.
we had a doctor for COVID. Now we need a lawyer for court. There you go.
Oh,
It's
and
been
we need
prophesied.
we need a joke from the BYP. I feel one coming on. Hold on.
Okay, let's go.
Hold on. I can't find my hat in the dark. And hold on, I'll look in the garbage can. Okay, hold
Let
it.
me
It
get my
came to me.
crystal ball out.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Have you ever wondered how fast the speed of lightning would be if it didn't zigzag? Good reaction.
All of us are like, what?
Yeah.
I see that Lila Tuller is here, and I just want to say hi to her because her Mormon story was transformational for me. So thank you, Lila.
Yeah.
Yes.
for
Yeah.
sure.
She's
Absolutely.
Amen. Amen. brother.
her and I are sisters from a different mister. We think scarily alike in many things, in many areas.
Yes.
That's good. That can be
We
a good
both
thing.
get a little grouchy sometimes, but I love it. I love having a grouchy sister.
Oh, heck yeah. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Okie pokey.
I mean, I
like
feel
that
like
one.
Rusty really shot his wad on like Mormon
He
predictions.
played with his little factory. Didn't Boyd tell him not to?
That's what
I
happens
know,
when you
but
wake
so,
up at
like-
3 a.m. with a revelation.
But Boyd's a dead prophet, so he can't listen to Boyd.
That's true.
Oh,
So, like,
good point.
what do you think is going to be the most? They gotta change something. I mean, that's always what every member who's a true believing member is waiting for. Like, what are they gonna give us? We need the meat. We need the.
Well, yeah.
What do you think
What
it's
they
gonna
will
be?
do, my prediction is they are going to, if I'm starting to get into a very bad habit on YouTube where I'm actually watching the TBM Mormons and they're putting their testimonies out there and all. And there's some fun ones, there's some good ones, but holy out there Batman Murgatroyd, what they'll do at this conference is they will imply strongly that they are actually in touch with Jesus. I also, and here's where I become the oddball, and that's okay because I am the oddball in this group, but I'm going to really go oddball. I don't think they're going to focus on Oak's excommunication idea at all. I think they are going to worship Russell Nelson.
Oh,
It will all be about Russell Nelson because he's so old. They have to get their worship in because he's soon to go.
yeah.
I think this whole conference is going to be maybe even
All
a
hail
rehash
Rusty.
of Russell Nelson. All hail Rusty. They'll have
All-
stories about him, how wonderful of a prophet he's been,
You're
perhaps some
probably
faith
right.
promoting stories, etc. Because I mean, the man is getting old, and he's So
So
Yeah,
that means they'll have to integrate his steeple doctrine into these talks. Then right? We're gonna have some steeple doctrine.
Good one.
Yes.
There could be some steeple.
Brother Jones is
Steeple
right.
envy.
This is probably going to be a very temple-centric conference because
Yes.
of the amount of temples that are being built. And there's going to, looking up. There's going to be a lot of looking up everything. You know, I love the one the other day that I heard where someone made the comment that the carpet was a reminder that we should look up, and we're like, the carpet is a reminder that we should look at.
I'm
But
thinking,
That sounds
yeah,
weird.
it will be very temple centric. And I love, if any of you saw Benjamin Parks's article that was in the Salt Lake Tribune, and then he also made a TikTok about it where he talked about that, Russell will not live long enough to see the results of this build craze that he's on. But there will either be a lot of active people and it will be a success, or there will be
backlash.
and ivy and some kind of apocalyptic scene of temples all over the world that are just deserted.
yeah,
And
I think it's going to be a headache for future prophets because they aren't going to be able to afford the upkeep. But I
We
also
talked
predict
about
more will be announced. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a couple things about this. Number one, it is absolutely in the best interest of everybody who is speaking at conference to canonize Rusty and to put him up on a pedestal and say what a great prophet he is, because it perpetuates the system. If you're going to want to continue to have prophets, then you need to talk about how great the current prophet is. You need to talk about how wonderful his revelations are, how wonderful his teachings are, because then that gives rise to the next generation of prophets, whether it's Dallin Oaks for the 6 months that he's going to survive, or whomever is going to come after that. You have to bow at the feet of the current prophet if you want the current system to remain in place.
Yeah.
And the other part of this is that Rusty's fanaticism about temple building is absolutely going to backfire on the church, because they don't have enough people to staff the temples that they currently have. They're going to spend millions and millions of dollars building these new temples, which don't have enough people to staff them. They're going to go empty. They're going to be open maybe 1 or 2 days a week. They're going to be seen by the general membership as wasting time and wasting money. There are going to be all of these little conversations about, oh, great, we got a temple in our neighborhood, but it's only open 1 day a week because we don't have enough people to staff it. Meanwhile, stake centers are closing, wards are being consolidated. The membership is not what they've reported to be. It's not 17 million. It's actually closer to 4. It's just going to end up backfiring. And they are going to spend their money because they have to, but they're not going to spend it on feeding the poor and needy. They're not going to spend it on humanitarian aid. They're going to spend it on building more multi-million-dollar temples that can't be staffed.
Right.
They have to spend.
100%.
That's exact. I believe that's right. That they have to spend to maintain their tax exempt status.
Yep.
Yes.
And-
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
And-
what better than temples in
Yeah.
Russell's mind?
And
In their mind.
That they
And
will
I'll bet
do.
you if there's ever a backlash against religions that are too rich, it'll be the opulence of the temples that actually causes taxing of religions. Maybe they tax religions after $1 million of revenue or something. And it could be because of the lavish temples, and it's like, you spent tens and hundreds of millions of dollars on temples and hardly did a thing for the poor. And it might be a backlash.
Well, and here's the other backdrop to this. The backside to this is, once it dawns on everyone, we've got like 3,000 temples. We're only using 25 of them. What happens to the church membership's testimonies when they begin to sell off those temples? What are you going to think about the work of the Lord when, well, we're kind of cash strapped? We've got to get rid of some of this real estate. It was one thing to sell the LDS hospitals, but to sell those LDS temples, or to let them run down, to give them over to another religion, etc., or a business or whatever, what would the people's testimonies, what would happen to them if they get to that kind of a point? Just
Destroy the tabernacle. You're right.
Yeah, the scary part is the rhetoric behind it, because when the SEC came out and identified, and there was the leak, in Ensign Peak, and they said, well, we just have a rainy day fund. We just need to have this money put aside in case, and everyone was like, in case of, and they've actually changed that now and said, we need this money because we are a temple building religion. And so they're actually changing the excuse for having $250 billion.
Yeah, and I have a comment on the reason why that they changed the narrative from the rainy day fund, because the rainy day is now.
Yeah.
There is mass homelessness. There are people going hungry. Their own members are going hungry.
in their own city.
In their own city, in their own state, in their own country. We don't even have to go outside of the United States. But if we did, there would be far more members of the Mormon Church who are in peril, who are in food insecurity. And they had to move away from that model of saying, oh, it's for a rainy day, because the rainy day is happening right now. Your own people are starving. Your own people are homeless. And what are you doing to prevent it? Absolutely nothing. We're building more temples. Why? Why? Why are we spending $20 to $30 million on a temple when there are people in that city who are experiencing food insecurity and poverty?
There's one, isn't there one voice in the bloggernacle that says the temple building is the best anti-poverty program out there?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Especially in Africa, they say the gospel is what will get you out of poverty.
Yeah,
Hi,
tell that to all the
Katie is
homeless
going,
people.
hello, we got worse.
When
Tell
the-
that to all the
Katie is
homeless
hell.
people under the Utah Salt Lake City interstate overpasses that I saw last month.
So who wants Maven to join us?
Woohoo!
Yes, yes,
Raise your
Yeah,
hand.
bring
You want
Maven on.
More
to join us?
Maven, more Maven.
Bring her in.
Why
She's
we
getting
bring
ready.
Maven on, I will say my friend whose mom was a convert in Louisiana, they've been in North Carolina his whole life. He's like the oldest of 12. And in Asheville, but on higher levels, they are not getting any church support. And like where's the church even in humanitarian crisis, in a hurricane situation, or in a war situation, or in Haiti where there is so much poverty and you have so much money you could feed millions? Like,
For
I
a
mean,
month.
in
They could
Utah,
feed
we have
nations.
food
That's
storage.
right.
We don't need to go and like pack up like rice.
But the church
Unless it's
always
going somewhere.
collaborates with other organizations. They never
right.
go in individually. They always collaborate with Red Cross or
Maybe we're going to need a super chat to get Maven to come
so
on.
they have to. They're probably in the process of figuring out who they can collaborate with, so that they don't have to do the work. They just have to give them some money, and then they can say, "This is how much we gave to Red Cross."
Well, apparently with FEMA, you have to be on an approved list to even contribute to like give aid. So like people who are just in a Christian community can't go
So we
in
have a
and
special
just
guest
donate
coming.
food. So maybe the church is in an approved list. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Interesting
I
question.
don't know.
Satan is ready almost to come on, I think.
I know. Bring him on.
Who?
So
Her.
I actually have a kind of a sad story.
Do I have to do it, Maven? Or
If
can you do it?
Maven's coming. Well, I happened to be on the island of Maui last week, and I don't know if you guys know, but a year ago the fires there were absolutely devastating, and I happened to be in the area where the most destruction had happened. There are 2,000 families who are homeless. 103 people lost their lives. And one of the buildings that I drove past every single day was the LDS chapel that's right there in Lahaina on Maui.
The Miracle
And
Chapel.
the LDS chapel itself sustained a huge amount of damage. And what is really, really sad to me is that every time I drove past that chapel, there were people on the roof working on the chapel. The windows were boarded up. There were a lot of people on the ground trying to repair the chapel. The church has enough money to completely rebuild that chapel, to completely rebuild every house of every member who is on that island. And it's a year later, and have they done it? No. Where the suffering is the greatest, they have not done it.
They have enough power to remake that money in the stock market in just one quarter.
In a day. In a day.
I'm trying to be charitable. Yeah.
If they've got $250 billion under management, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars every month. They've got plenty of money that they could alleviate suffering. They could alleviate pain. They could rebuild homes. They could house the homeless. They could feed the hungry. And yet they're not doing it. In fact, they didn't add taking care of the poor and needy to their fourfold mission of the church until 2015. Why did it take them so freaking long to add that to perfecting the saints and redeeming the dead? I don't get it.
Woohoo!
Hi, Maven.
Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, you've
were
been listening
you done,
to this.
Megan? I want to piggyback on that. Were you finished talking about?
Yeah, I was done. I'm done. Like, what else? What more can you say? That a church with so much wealth can't even repair its own chapel, can't even take care of its own members, can't even feed its own members. It's sickening to me.
Yeah, I think that's par for the course. The church has been like that for a while. There's someone. There's some background feedback. I don't know whose camera it's through, but if we could mute,
like
when if we're not on, that might help. Yeah. So I've got my devil horns. I came a little bit behind on everything, so I was trying to listen on double speed and try to catch up and see if there was anything that I that was already talked about. I do think with about the references to Oakes or Russell M. Nelson, I think I'm kind of going against what some of you guys are saying. I think that now is the time to start kissing Oakes's ass. And I think we're going to see that. I think there'll be, outwardly by name, some superficial references to Russell M. Nelson, but they're going to start, the real brown nosers are going to start quoting from Elder Oaks. They're going to start quoting, from the Proclamation on the Family, but also his past talks, that kind of brown nosing, I think, to start currying favor. That's what I think. I think the quotes and references to Nelson that we're used to are going to mainly switch in favor of Oakes. And to start the ramp up there. Did anyone talk about this, like the supporting of the building of temples? I think in a vague way that to us will be a dog whistle for the things that are happening with the, Arlupa court cases and whatnot. I think maybe with a persecution complex about it or something, but I think there'll be something there, but it'll be sufficiently vague that I think most members won't get or understand that it's a reference like to Fairview. I think someone talked about Bednar and how he always Bednar always explains how we got something totally wrong. I was thinking something along the lines of that, but I think more of in a way, kind of like a gaslighting way. And I don't know that it'll come from Bednar, but it could come from somebody else. Just about a policy or an idea or doctrine that was strict in the past, or either sexist or homophobic or something like that, that they're going to pretend was not like that. Does that make sense? Again, I don't have like a specific, if anything, actually, I probably would be about, I think, sexism and women. But that's what I think there'll be something that really glosses over how bad the church has been on a particular position in the past, and will pretend that, just like with racism, like the church pretends it's better than it's ever been. So those are my predictions, plus the one I put in the comments, that I think 4 women, no more, will have any kind of a role, whether speaking or prayer. And I think I thought I had another one. I guess I saw the post on Reddit about the tank top garment for men. Does anyone know if that was real, and if there's a female version? That's something I'm really curious about. I don't think that'll be brought up in conference at all, because I think these are the kind of changes that they do not want to bring attention to. But
porn shoulders in the bedroom is not going to be allowed any more than porn shoulders in public.
There, that makes sense, because it is Oakes that gave us that quote. So. Right, here we go.
Debbie's shoulders much more tan.
Yeah, but I do think, going back to what Megan was saying about just like the church's inability to care for things, I think we've been seeing this a lot. I mean, even just again, if to reference Exmo Reddit, people talking about just chapels that are in disarray. And there was wasn't there one where there was mold, and it was bad enough that they had to evacuate the building. And there were several people that had like long-term effects from being in and like breathing in these mold spores. And Exmo Lex, this was like over a year ago, and she's in Idaho, so she's also in the Mormon Quarter. I think Idaho. I might be wrong. She might have been in Utah. I can't remember. But her local chapel had a dead cat on the lawn forever, and it just like started to basically just disintegrate up until it was basically bones. And she finally like took care of it and bagged up the remains. But yeah, like even members aren't taking care of things. But like from the top, I do think there'll be some kind of a reference to the hurricane, or the church will take credit for some kind of a thing, whether it's somebody else's efforts or telling a story about like a member who personally maybe did a lot for the victims of the hurricane or something. The church will have a story where they will seemingly take credit. And those are all my predictions.
Yeah.
There needs to be a new calling produced in each ward, that there is a dead animal picker-upper.
Right.
I went to
grounds maintenance.
my
That's
state
all.
conference last week, and they did not do a sustaining of the officers, which was interesting, of the general officers. And I'm not sure if they did it at the adult session, the night before, or if they just didn't do it. If there was it's so close to conference. I don't know. But
I
go ahead, Carrie.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I do have one more absolute for sure prediction that I almost dare prophesy. If we're alive, Nemo, the ex-Mormon, and the BYP will stand and oppose the supporting of the brethren in this conference.
At home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, and someone pointed this out, one of the reasons why the church joins in with other organizations is because they don't have the infrastructure as a nonprofit to really give the money the way, because it's a very detailed thing to actually give money. And, they would actually have to form a charitable organization with paid administrators to actually give the money from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, rather than just saying, well, we're going to donate this money to Red Cross or some other care and habitat type organization, because they have the infrastructure already set up. They've already got all of the clarification and certification and everything that you need to be a nonprofit charitable organization, even though you would think the church is a charitable organization, but they don't, and they don't want to spend money on the administrative costs to set things up. So they will just give some money, and then they will come back and they'll say, we as a church gave $4 million to the hurricane, thing by donating it to the American Red Cross, right, who actually did the work. And that's how they take credit for other people's work, because they're, as you mentioned, Maven, they're so used to volunteer people that take care of the church, volunteer people that do this, to actually have to pay administrators to do that section of charitable giving, food banks, everything else that they do. They can't do that. So they have to work through their volunteer Bishop Storehouse, all run by volunteers.
So the hurricane victims in conference are going to be a non-issue. They're just going to be a slight mention.
Yeah.
Like,
it'll be small.
We think about you. We pray for you. We love you, and our blessings are with you.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a lot more general than that. It's very rare that in general conference they specifically address a specific calamity that's happening right at the time. They usually say, like, our hearts go out to everyone who is suffering right now and everyone who is in a time of need. And by the way, did you do your food storage? Did you pay your tithing? If you did, then you were obviously prepared for the disaster. If you didn't, well, that's your own fault. Sorry.
They create a perpetual relief fund for disaster on your tithing donation slip. So now you can donate not just to the missionary fund or fast offerings. You can donate to disaster.
The next hurricane.
And it'll never go there, just like with the other funds.
Exactly.
But the members
all the prophet would have to do is warn everybody, if he had any foresight at all.
Right, get to higher ground.
I mean, what the hell is the point of the prophet?
The new tithing slip might be a new.
That was one of the big things for me, is where were you on 9/11? Where were you telling the members, don't go to New York City on 9/11? Don't get on a plane on 9/11? Where was the prophecy on that? And there's always some kind of apologetic, we can't prevent all suffering.
Our missionaries were safe, or there were missionaries who were supposed to be in the World Trade Center, but because of things happened, because God basically,
because they prayed that morning.
God saved them, our missionaries, not everybody else.
The story
Hurricane
about
Katrina, any hurricane, any natural disaster, when we've seen tornadoes just rip through, or hurricanes, where was the prophet? And during COVID, where was the prophet saying, build a garden, homeschool your children, do these things before the government came in and said
he was busy. He was busy clearing his schedule.
The prophet is a surgeon, an all hail doctor, couldn't even and that was my big beef. That's probably why I got arrested once in Utah County, because I was like, your prophet sucks. Where was he?
Where was that on your yellow notepad, Russell Nelson?
He did his duty. He
was calling the stadiums and the arenas to cancel the booking.
Yeah.
So he was.
We were supposed to fast again. Remember, we all just fast our problems.
Yeah, we
away.
didn't have enough faith. That was the problem. We didn't have enough
Two
faith.
failed fasts and the greatest concentration of Melchizedek priesthood in the world with the Quorum of the 15 and the first presidency couldn't prevent COVID or cure it or help it. He asked everybody to fast so that it would alleviate the suffering. And both times COVID continued to increase and rage.
No,
That
but don't you
is
know?
shelf
You know
bending.
what's
Dr.
more of a
Professor.
crisis than COVID? Mental health.
Sometimes
Yeah.
though.
Stuck in their houses. No community, no religion, no support, no family, not being able to like get married, not being able to go to their grandma's funeral, not being able to send their kids to school. Like, what was the biggest
I heard
crisis?
a lot of relationships were tough, and it even became like more abusive or dangerous for some people, like being stuck with this person.
But
all the time.
Domestic abuse went whoop, whoop, whoop.
Backyard Professor, though, didn't you know that sometimes we have to suffer in order to get closer to Christ? That must have been the reason why God didn't take away the pandemic, is because some of us needed to suffer to get closer to God.
There is always a beautiful loophole, and it wasn't until I quit being an apologist that I actually could not see that. But good point. Thank you, dear Megan.
Actually, how do you know that it wasn't going to be so much worse? And actually, because of the fasting and the faith and the priesthood that's on the earth.
Oh, the priesthood made it less worse. Only 10,000 died instead of 2 million.
That's
right.
We could have. The pandemic could have wiped out the entire population of the world if not for that Melchizedek priesthood fast. So we should all be grateful.
I stand corrected. I'm going to go to conference this weekend after all.
Yes.
We should all be grateful.
We will all fast and go to conference. And
You were saying, Carrie, about how a lot of people are thinking that this is the, April, this is the, it didn't happen in April. Everyone thought the end of the world was coming in April. Well, that didn't happen. So this is the month. This is the month for the end. But it was funny because when I was researching general conferences, I discovered that conference, I think if I get my facts right now, it's only a couple days. I've already forgotten. But general conference was canceled twice. Once for the Spanish flu and once for the influenza, both of them in the early 20th century, 1920, something like that. So I thought, oh, okay. So how, where was the prophet, Megan, as you were saying, for the influenza, epidemic that went on in the mid 20th century, and then the Spanish flu, there was a bird flu. Maybe that was the one that was in the late 19th century where General Conference was canceled. And so you've got COVID. We've always had these things. We've always had national disasters, some kind of epidemic or something like that. But now for some reason, this is the end. These are the last one. And I'm sure the hurricane is just,
cholera has killed more people than anything. A virus or a war. Yeah. Dirty water. Sorry.
Dirty water.
And God can't cure dirty water? Yeah. Hello.
He can't even tell people ahead of time, just wash your hands. That's amazing.
I know we had to teach people how to wash their hands after going
I think David Bednar is the new Russell Nelson, and he is getting feistier and feistier because the old guys ahead of him are not dying. And he's getting more and more angry every conference because it's like, daggone it. This is Russell Nelson in 1990. We need to change the name of the church. Dang it, he's not dead yet. Dang it, I got to go through 2 more guys. And
someone called him Darth Bednar, like the Darth Vader.
Sick. He's doing really
well.
So
he was the youngest apostle called, and I bet he thought, like, I'm a shoo-in for that presidency. Like, surely everybody's going to die out. And now he's mad because he's like, these guys are living way longer than they're supposed to. I should have been prophet by now.
So his talks are going to get meaner and meaner.
Well, don't forget that the singularity is near. Bednar could live to be 150.
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh. Brother Jones for the terror of the night.
If you just mute conference and you just watch, this is the page that I'm on right now, Debbie. If you just mute conference and you just watch their facial expressions, what I see more than often more often than anything else is anger and resentment and contempt on their face more than anything else. It's
I'm
not
gonna
love,
try
it's not
that.
kindness. Do it. You'll see
I'm
it.
gonna try
It's
that.
right there.
I never thought of doing that. What an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Huh. I'll be darned.
And I think it was
think-
I think it was Neil A. Maxwell who said that nobody knows the day or the hour that the Savior's going to come, but any idiot ought to be able to predict the year. So where are we on that one?
all right. But listen. In YouTube land, there really is kind of a big movement on several Christian YouTubes, on some of the Messianic Jewish YouTube channels, where they say the Messiah is getting really close, and they're saying at least as late as 2033. It'll
That's
happen.
what I've heard.
It'll happen.
Heard.
Oh, good. I'm
There's
not the
this
only
whole
one.
group doing the red heifer
2033.
prophecy.
Yes, and they have.
I'm like, nair.
They claim the Jews now have 5 pure red heifers that they're raising for that. No joke. And there is a Rebuild the Temple Jewish group that have already made all of the clothing, the linens, the robes, the sashes, and all of that. They're getting ready to rebuild that temple. They're absolutely determined.
First
And
of all, I
They're
love red
lurking
peppers.
on the mount, like pretending to sacrifice. They're getting ready. Like they've got like backyard professors
So,
telling the truth.
right around,
Like, this
right
is
around,
definitely a thing they believe in. Like,
right around
it's-
COVID time, there was a series, and I don't know if it was on Hulu or Netflix or something, and it was talking about the red heifer prophecy, and like some archaeologist was in Jerusalem. Does anybody know the name of that series? Because I wanted to watch it again, because with all this
One for Israel. That's who I've been watching. The group is called One for Israel, and they've been talking about this red heifer business quite a bit, a little bit anyway.
This was like
I
a
watched this like
drama
Sunday
series.
Funday group that does conspiracy theories, and they were the ones who alerted me to the red heifer. I had no idea. I don't know.
That's a big deal. Because they say once we can sacrifice the red heifer, I believe it's a prophecy in Zechariah, the Messiah comes.
So Renee Michelle, to answer your question, she says, what's the church saying about the holy war in Israel? And I guarantee you they will not say anything about the holy war in Israel. They will not address anything specifically. They will only talk in general terms about the calamities of the world, wars and rumors of wars. These are all signs of the end times. You need to double down. You need to be more righteous. The Savior's coming any day. That's all they're going to say.
And you need to begin invoking my name a little more. Brother Nelson. Brother Nelson.
So
the funny
who
thing
was the
is,
prophet who instigated the like BYU Israel? Was that Hunter, who was like the liaison starting that?
No,
There
that
was a
was
prophet.
Jeffrey Holland.
you mean Orson
Jeff,
Hyde?
Jeff Holland was directly involved in getting that set up. That's correct.
Yep.
The Jerusalem Center?
I read an
The
autobiography
Jerusalem Center, yes.
Yeah.
on
You know
how
what's
hard
funny
that
about that?
was to set up the
The Jerusalem Center is an occupied territory.
Yes.
When I watched that special about that young girl that was converted because she was Palestinian, she was given a scholarship to BYU because that was the promise. We will give so many scholarships because we are on occupied territory. And for them to do that is like, oh, when they talk about, well, that's the world. And I'm like, and you are right there in the pockets of everything else that's going on in the world. That was amazing to find out. You'd think that, as you say, you'd think that a prophet would say, but that's not our land. And we're going to follow the laws of the land and not occupy and overtake land that we haven't been given. But
well, the church hasn't followed laws ever since Joseph Smith. So
But
yeah, and
even,
another
like,
question.
in the Middle East, to like stick a stick in it, it seems like a really bad idea because there's already a big stick Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and another thing, will they bring up real lives of Mormon lives? Absolutely not. They've already issued a statement about that series and their condemnation of it. They're not going to ever speak specifically to anything in General Conference. They're not going to ever do anything that is going to divide the membership. They're always going to straddle this ever widening gap between the people who love LGBTQ people and the people who are advocating for health on the other side of the church. They're going to just try to straddle this gap. It's going to get wider and wider and wider and wider. And eventually there's going to be some kind of a huge schism.
Eventually it'll split their pants.
Exactly.
Always a message that goes out to the general world, and then the secret message that's told in the temple behind closed doors.
Not only that,
you know,
you're right, Renee. There's like that secret message that goes out to the general leadership of the church that they tell behind closed doors in the temples. And then there's also Fair Mormon. There's also all of these websites, all of these influencers, all of these TikTokers that are supported by the church, that are promoted by the church, that put out the message that they want to be said, but they don't want to say it themselves because they don't want to create division. But they're doing it surreptitiously.
Exactly. It's all general. Follow the covenant path. Get closer to the Savior. The time is getting very close, brethren. I can sense it. My spirit is sensitive. Jesus is needing us to be prepared. Jesus can't come without a righteous people.
That's right. Get more righteous, be more holy. Don't do social media. Don't research. Don't go on the internet. Don't listen to Mormon Stories podcast. Don't listen to Latter Daily Digest. Just stay on the covenant path.
That's right. Please just
I want them to canonize the covenant path. That one I had on like my how many times are they going to talk about the covenant path in conference? Like, I think we could play bingo or a drinking game. Anytime they say the covenant path, anyone?
Let's do that. I'm for that.
Take a shot of coffee, a shot of water, or
a shot of water. If we go alcohol, I'll be wiped out shortly. I'm a lightweight.
I know.
I don't.
At some point, the church is going to be renamed the Mormon Catholic Church, and so it'll be the convent.
I'm a Mormon Catholic.
You would be the prophet. You would be the first female prophet after Deborah from the Old Testament.
They wouldn't allow it. They wouldn't allow it.
There's a free space for Henry B. Eyring crying during his talk.
Oh my God.
That's a for sure thing.
We put that on the center, like if you were to create a bingo card, which I think all of us should get together and play like Mormon bingo conference. And like
we should.
I was researching like predictions on every influencer, everyone who talks about Mormonism had like their followers put like, or their friends put their like predictions on. And I'm like, we literally should create bingo cards because some of them are so awesome of what people think they can predict is going to happen with the church or what will be announced. That
I'll say a couple things.
The free square was crying.
Is tomorrow night or afternoon, whatever, Nemo is going to do his conference prediction show, and he's going to try to be as accurate as possible. And we've just been having fun. So if you want to, watch Nemo's show tomorrow, and we'll see. I'm interested to see if the power of Nemo is going to be unleashed. I wonder what it'll be like.
We were having fun, but we're seriously having fun.
Right.
Nemo's now a
having fun to stay sane.
Yeah. So Nemo has been very kind and gentle. Yes, now he doesn't have to be kind and gentle. He can take the gloves off. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I don't think he will, though, because he is. I believe he knows that he's more powerful just the way he is if he can maintain that kind of a. He's got that wonderful Brit humor. Everybody loves the Brit humor. He's got it, but he's also got that Brit pizzazz, and I don't think he should leave that. I don't think he should go I would understand and I would empathize and I will still support him, even if he does get into that angry phase. No surprise there. But I would hope he wouldn't stay in it for too long, because he's more effective by being who he is.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, because I know in the letter they said, you may still attend church. You can still, we want to see you. We love you. I would be
He
surprised
might.
if he doesn't continue to go, at least for a while, just to see, because he did love his ward.
He did. Yeah.
People, and to see if they welcome him. And I bet they do. I bet they're very warm. And
it's amazing how so many of the Mormons, because I was trying to get on his live when he was talking about his excommunication and all. It's amazing how many Mormons just simply don't believe him. And all I could think of was, yeah, well, if you were in my ward, you're lucky Nemo wants to go to church, because I wouldn't be able to stand you arrogant, self-righteous pricks.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Mormons to say, yeah, Nemo's not even sincere, he doesn't deserve to be Mormon. I mean, why would you be? He is a community person. I get that. I personally am a Capricorn, so I'm okay either direction with a community or not. But I understand people's desires and needs to be involved in a community group, whether you're a member or not excommunicated. I don't see that as Nemo hypocrisy. I see that as, and this is a lesson for all of us. I'm going to say it based on what we have as a track record. You cannot change Mormonism from the inside, but you can't change it from the outside either. Yeah. So here we are. And yet it does change, so I'm wrong somewhere.
Only change.
We have great members in the church who are just born into it. Like I was born into it. And you know what? I had a son who was not born into it. He's born Catholic, but he is like Nemo. He is like my peacemaker. He is my oldest son. He is the sweetest thing on the planet. He will keep everyone happy. So I don't think that has anything to do with religion. I think that has everything to do with personality or just where you are in life. But like Nemo, that isn't religion. Like, and for a religion then to turn on, if a religion turned on my son, who is so sweet and so kind and so loving and such a fighter, like of being nice, to like have a religion turn on Nemo, I would, as a mother, go AWOL on a religion.
And I think a lot of it, and Nemo has even mentioned this a few times, because there's that stereotypical English contention averting personality trait. And I would say if that stereotype is truth, and they always say there's some truth to stereotypes. My stepfather was English, and in reverse, he joined the church, was baptized, gave up drinking, gave up smoking. He was actually in the stake presidency with Dallin Oaks when we lived in Naperville, Illinois. And he was a temple worker, very dedicated, and finally admitted just months before he died that he did not believe the church was true. But he did it for his family. And he did it because it was the right thing to do in his mind, because his wife wanted to join the church. So he joined the church with her. And so, so there is, I mean, Americans are, we've got that personality. And you can, if anybody has watched Nemo, you can see that this has been emotionally draining for him. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see if he doesn't continue to go and continue to be a part of the ward. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how he's received.
For sure.
I'll bet he stays away for a little bit just to recoup.
Yeah.
Well, but also Nemo is very much like Emperor Palpatine, strike me down and I will become more powerful than I ever was before.
I think the thing that hurt him the most was that even said in the letter, it wasn't so much that he had an issue with some of the apostles and things that they had said, because his stake president said, I know about that. We've talked about that. But there was something about that personal correspondence that the stake presidency used against him as you are going after members like one-on-one. There was something about that he will not divulge that I think just crushed him. And so
Yeah.
that's interesting and very sad.
Well, if something like, and this is the difference between perhaps the classic Brit and the dingling American me, if something like that had been accused to me, I would have said, you're damn right I'm going for one-on-one. I'll go for 1 on 2, 3, 10, 200,000, or 80 billion. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I heard this, though, it sounded like the BYU honor code, though. Like when I hear and read, like anyone who's gone through the BYU honor code process, it like, there is that like, oh, we tattle and we tell and we're just here for your spirituality because we care so much. We were worried about you. Like God told us to work out our differences to save your soul. And so I get a little bit of that like fundy Uber Mormon BYU kind of vibe off what happened to Nemo, even though he's not anywhere near the state of Utah. It's just
it's really disappointing how the church really does advocate for members to inform on each other and to, you know, just it's like Nazi Germany all over again. Like if you see somebody doing something that you know is not in accordance with the teachings of the church, please report it. Please give receipts, please give evidence. And then we're going to use that evidence against somebody to excommunicate them without telling them what the evidence actually is. We're just going to call them in and say, hey, you're in trouble. And
Actually,
well, I'm turning all 5 of you people in.
Yeah.
Hey, I've already been turned in. I got the like mug shots to prove it.
Too late. I resigned.
I had a girlfriend whose neighbor called the bishop because there was a gentleman's car in her driveway, and she got called in on a court because they accused her of having an affair and whatnot because a neighbor called and was suspicious. So that's to your point, Megan.
It's so true. Like my cousin, I remember going to BYU. She was married and tanning in her background when we were all fake tanning, of course, in the 90s. And so she was tanning in her background, in her backyard, in a bikini. And a neighbor saw her. And she got called into the bishop's office for wearing a bikini and then a tanning.
Oh.
In Provo, Utah.
Now
this is how deep it goes.
Just bathing on the roof, basically.
Right? I mean, like Bathsheba for sure. For sure.
Horror.
Bearing her testimony.
Showing
bearing something.
Yeah.
Well, I
luckily
just
my
have to
cousin
say,
loved it and married her, and maybe he liked her in a bathing suit. So good for him.
conference time, especially in the fall, is always really hard for me because my birthday is actually on Sunday. My birthday frequently falls on General Conference Sunday. And I always used to think, oh, it's so wonderful that I get to spend my birthday sitting at the feet of prophets and listening to the apostles speak. And now I just have to say kind of F you to that because that's not what I'll be doing on my birthday on Sunday.
You know what?
Where will you go, Megan?
Oh, I am going to be off the boat. I'm going to be at a bar, probably getting a tattoo and snorting cocaine off of a hooker's
what birthday is this?
abs.
Well, also, do you know what this weekend is? It's not just Mormon Holy Week.
It's Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. It's Rosh Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, it's the new year. So go and throw your sins into the water.
You know that Melina appeared to Joseph Smith during Jewish holidays. That's the latest.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
So I
Renee,
have a visitation.
To answer your question, Renee, I am turning 50 on Sunday.
Stop it.
I just turned 49 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
Amazing.
I'm officially at midlife if we measure it by Rusty Nelson's metrics.
There you go. Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Where are you going to be? Are you in Utah?
No, I'm in Texas.
Anyone in Texas, go buy this girl a drink and
DM me for the address. I'm going to be having a backyard cookout. Just everybody come by, bring something. I'll grill it for you. We'll have some whiskey. It'll be great.
I wish I was in Texas this weekend. Cool. Awesome. Well,
Okay,
that's a perfect way to end this conversation, unless anyone has anything.
Oh, we have to
last
sing.
it.
We have to sing "Happy Birthday" to her, though. Don't we?
Okay,
No,
let's
you're
see.
going to have
Ready?
to pay thousands in copyright. Don't do that.
Oh no!
But no,
Let's do
what
it.
was the Mormon? What's the Mormon one?
Oh, the birthday song. You've had a
Yeah,
happy
birthday, shout
birthday.
hooray. We want to sing to
All the
you
primary leaders.
today.
There
I've
was
never
also
heard
one
that.
before older kids, like
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
we're all
1 year
too
older
old
and
to
smarter
remember.
too.
1
Go,
year older
Megan.
and wiser too. Happy birthday
Biden.
to you.
So I loved that they were going to maybe canonize the Visions of Glory. Does anyone have anything else? I mean, maybe they bring polygamy back.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping. That's
Well,
my.
for the Texans, are they going to call Ty Detmer to be a 70?
Yes.
Or has that already happened?
Oh,
I think it's going to happen.
dude,
Oh yeah, we could
you might
say.
be right. You might be
Let's
right.
do one quick thing. Who more than last time temples, and what does last time mean? This is April last time or last October last time?
That they
I
predict.
think there will be at least 8 predicted. 8
I
new
think we
ones
should go
announced.
around
Okay, so-
and each of us should say a number. How many
Okay.
temples are going to be predicted?
Yeah, I'll
So
say
that-
8.
I'm gonna say 11.
I'm going to say 7.
I'm going
So
to
that's
say
kinda
5.
low. Ooh,
Okay,
really
I'll
low.
say 6, so we got it all covered. We were.
I'm
we-
gonna go. I'm
Nice.
gonna go. I'm gonna go. Price is Right and say $1. One temple.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, just so you know, since I live so close to it, you remember here a couple of years ago, I mean, through the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow shenanigans, that horror story, President Nelson did announce a second temple in Rexburg. Their justification, of course, is because the youth are so overwhelming, the one up on the hill, that they have to have one down by the interstate now. That is being built. They weren't just talking about it. And the reason, of course, and I've heard this from people, is the Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow influence is still very much alive in Rexburg. They are the dominant spiritual force. And the church wants to flex its muscle and say, bullshit, we're the ones in charge of this town. This is our town, and we're going to build another temple to prove it. It's kind of a, we're tougher than you, but it's a major contest because, I mean, the weirdness going on
So
will just blow your mind.
Backyard Professor, you and I should talk because I have done some deep dives on some of the people who are still following Chad and Lori. I've had people come out of the woodwork to come and talk to me about the experiences they've had in that area of the country. And it is seriously frightening. Like, no joking aside, every time I do an episode about some of these fringe groups, people in my comments say, be careful, be safe, hope you're okay. It seriously is scary.
Yeah. But they really are building that. I see, we've heard criticisms. He's announced temples now for the last 10 years in his tenure as prophet, and he hasn't built over 75% of them. This second Rexburg temple, it's on the way up. It'll be done shortly.
Why haven't they excommunicated any of those followers of the Visions of Glory group? I mean,
So
like,
I can speak
let's
to that a
just
little
talk.
bit.
If they're going to excommunicate and Oaks is going to go balls out to the walls out of like excommunicate people, I have a list. Like,
There you go.
you want to
Megan knows.
excommunicate people? Let's start
Yeah.
over here, not here.
So yeah, I can speak a little bit to that. Obviously, Chad and Lori have been excommunicated at this point, although Chad was not excommunicated until the children were found on his property. So it was long after they knew that he was teaching apostate teachings, but it wasn't until he was really indicted legally that they excommunicated him. And a lot of the reason why they're not going after some of these leaders of the fringe groups, for example, Mike and Nancy James, the people who are heading up Preparing a People, Christopher Perrett, who's the head of Avow, is because there are so many followers of the LDS Church who subscribe to these teachings that if they start excommunicating these people who are prepping for the end times, they're going against their own doctrine. So they can't do it. So there's a lot of controversy about this where they're not going to excommunicate anybody who is still even just a little bit on the church's party line of these things. And I think it's really unfortunate because, yes, absolutely, she became visible, follow the money. They're going to lose tithing dollars from all of these people who are very faithful tithe-paying members who believe in the end times, who are prepping for the end times. They're not going to start excommunicating those people. The people they're excommunicating are people like Nemo who are speaking out against the church leaders telling lies. If you commit the unpardonable sin of calling out church leaders for doing something wrong, for stepping on the wrong side of history, or for lying, God forbid, then you're going to get excommunicated. But they're not going to excommunicate anybody that's bringing in a revenue stream for them.
Yeah, exactly.
How
It
fascinating.
sounds like when they put out the manifesto against polygamy, were they actually going against polygamists? No, because those were their most loyal. Most of the 12, most of the 70, most of the highest up of the echelon were in polygamous relationships. So this absolutely is par for the course. What you're saying makes sense,
Yeah,
because
that's a
not
very
going to
good
cut off their
observation.
nose to spite their face, because it's money.
Yeah, Wilford would have told everybody, hey, we quit polygamy. Then he turned to the church and he said, hey, all you guys, head down to New Mexico and Mexico. Don't you dare quit.
And
keep
Canada.
going, keep going. And Canada, and Canada. Yeah. In fact, there are still groups who have never stopped.
Yep.
Right.
Including Dallin Oaks and Russell Nelson. They are polygamists. They've been married in the temple to 2 different women now. Yeah. Are they going to have to choose which one, or do they get them both?
And when they die posthumously, how many women are going to want to be sealed? Do they still do that? Because remember how many people would seal themselves to dead prophets back in the day?
Yeah,
or how many prophets would seal themselves to young women on their birthdays? That was a thing that happened
that
too.
one is questionable. Like, what, 57? Happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
I personally think that Rusty's going to have one planet with Wendy and one planet with his first wife. That's how that's going to work.
Yeah.
So he'll have several universes.
And that's going to be under the jurisdiction of Danzel. It's going to be like, I don't even want to be on the same planet as that.
Danzel's going to burn her shit down if she sees Wendy. We all know that.
Danzel's going to form a Death Star and put a ray right at Wendy's planet. It's going to be gone.
You know, it's funny. You were talking about temple attendance. And when I worked in the Portland Temple, I lived in Vancouver, Washington. Over 80% of the workers that worked in the Portland Temple were from Vancouver or the Vancouver area. So now they're building a temple in Vancouver. And I said to my husband, who's going to work in the Portland Temple? And which, you know, you'd think with all the subdivisions that fed into that Portland area, that it would have just been, you know, filled with workers. But no, they were crossing the river, and traffic has gotten so crazy in the Portland area now that it was really a sacrifice for a lot of those people to get over to Portland to work in the temple. But that's where the workers came from. So it's going to be really interesting to see. But yeah, it's going to be, I hope I live long enough to watch the apocalypse. Yeah. The ivy growing over the boarded up windows.
Gene, one of your commenters asked an interesting question. How much will our buddy JS be mentioned in conference?
Oh,
who's JF?
Very rarely.
Joseph Smith.
Joseph Smith. JS.
I predict that the Motabs will sing one verse of praise to the man as a prelude, and then we'll be done with it.
Interesting. Yeah. It's all about Russell Nelson, the living prophet.
That's right.
So I want everybody's attention to the screen that says from Aaron, thanking Megan, for doing all the collaborations you've been doing. And I'd like to thank Megan as well.
I would too. It's fun. It's good.
And yeah, I think that the rising tide for us little ships has to, we have to stay.
Hey, who you calling the little shit?
Yeah,
Me.
that's
He's
right.
calling me a little ship. No, you guys are welcome on my channel anytime. Come and let's have a conversation. I love collaborating.
So are
Yeah,
you
so-
guys. I'll look you up, Megan. That'd be
We're
fun.
at 1.5 hours, and
Oh, we are?
most of my audience are probably asleep right now because they're
Oh, wow.
quite a few of them are retired. But anyhow, you know, I appreciate them because they go to sleep and it keeps on playing the video, and I get all the hours extra, right?
You don't have to ask
There
people
you
how
go.
old they are. You just say, "What time is dinner?"
I love it.
When they say 4 o'clock, you got it.
Everyone is also doing Mormon predictions right now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
all my
yeah.
notifications have been blowing up. Like everyone's like getting on the gravy train. So
Absolutely. They want to win the bingo, baby.
that's right.
Well, it's
And
been,
I don't mean beach blanket bingo with Elvis either.
That's right, sir.
Gene, I love that you stuck Carrie and I over on the same side. I don't
That's
know,
right.
Brother Jones, I'll have to take your hat off. I don't know if you can join the
I'm not sure if that's the
Silver
telestial or the celestial
Yeah.
side.
Terrestrial kingdom, baby, right here.
But anyhow,
Well, Renee definitely could be the earthly counterpart of the great lady, the heavenly mother. There's no question about that.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I can play that part. Yeah,
Yeah.
white
Love it.
hair, white. You've got the white beard. We could be in the. We could have
I'm
been.
just saying.
You guys could have your own planet. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
so people from the different
However, like Back to the Future, they might come back at us and say, "Your kids."
I just have
Let's see. Am I pointing at Renee Steelman right now?
yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
Renee, tell us a little bit about your show and what you did posted lately.
Oh,
And-
okay.
and
Well,
we'll send some people over there.
I just did a pre-conference little ditty on my podcast. She became visible 513 on YouTube, and I related a lot of it to The Handmaid's Tale. And I think the fact that we have section 132 in our canonized scriptures that call Emma handmaiden, that you can only wear your red cape and your white bonnet. That's what everyone should be wearing to conference. But that was my latest. It's been really fun. And I'm hoping to get someone on next week that isn't a member of the church. We're going to talk about something completely different. I've been trying to do that, but this darn church keeps pulling me back in because every freaking week something happens. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you just slow down so I can talk about, I don't know, macros or something, and something different. But so
That's right. I learned a lot about conference. You went over some history of conference, and that was pretty cool.
Yep.
And so
Yeah.
everybody can go over there.
Fun.
And then
Fun.
Megan, what's your latest? things going on?
Unfortunately, I have to say I'm talking about the mental health aspects of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, the family dynamics, the relational dynamics, the psychology behind it, and doing a lot of Mormonism 101 for people on my channel who have never been Mormon and don't understand why it's such a big deal for people to be trying champagne for the first time on national television. So that's a little bit of what I'm doing, but coming up, actually, I'm doing a series on indoctrination, how we all got brainwashed into the church, and the fact that I am a 7th generation Mormon. I'm going to be digging into some of my family history and the persecution complex that the Mormon church perpetuates.
That's right. I want to do a collab with you before you leave the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives behind, and do like what does an old white guy Mormon have to say about these young women that I've been watching. And I'm going to be very, very nice to them too.
I'm only on episode 2 right now. And honestly, I'm coming at it from the perspective of these are brainwashed girls and they have a lot to unpack. Look at who their parents are. Look at the social and societal things that they're dealing with. And this is kind of their only escape and outlet from a really horrible, damaging system. So let's be kind to them.
My perspective is that they're geniuses. They're laughing all the way to the bank, right?
That's
Isn't
right.
That what,
making a hell of a lot more money than I am.
When we were kids.
I hope they're paying their tithing.
There you go.
I wonder if the church would accept their tithing from.
Oh yeah, the church will accept anything these days. They're all about the money, honey. Yeah,
that's right. And then
insurance person lives very near Lisa from Housewives of Salt Lake. And that's
Oh,
a good
really?
question, Megan. Did she pay tithing on her tequila?
Yeah.
That comes
Yeah.
So
good to
Carrie
know.
Schurz, the backyard professor, what do you have coming up?
I have some more. I just recently, I was very fortunate to have some of my audience and patrons help me purchase Margaret Barker's brand new book on the Great Lady. And I promised I would share more information out of that book with my audience. And the last time I talked about it, it went very well because Margaret Barker is such a phenomenal biblical scholar. But I am going to be doing, I call it a series. I get through a chapter and there is just so much that I love about it that I want to present it all. And so I do believe I'm doing a series, but it's not going to be uninterrupted. But I do believe this Sunday I'm going to be focusing on the Great Mother again. The Great Lady is what Margaret calls her. And, you know, to use Mormon speak, we would say Heavenly Mother. But yeah, so I suspect I'm going to be doing that this Sunday and sharing some more. There are some New Testament scriptures, themes with Jesus that's gonna blow your flipping minds how Heavenly Mother is tied in. And I've got to share it. It overwhelms me. It's so fun. It's so unique and interesting that, yeah. So yeah, I'm doing stuff more on Heavenly Mother, and then I've kind of been back beating up the brethren in gentle persuasion, love, and using my priesthood righteously against them with the BYP Responds, and I will be doing a lot more of those also. So
there you go.
It's exciting.
So thanks everyone for coming. Like and subscribe. Check out everybody's channels.
Hey, Jean, put Renee back on. She needs to plug her
Somehow,
stuff.
I don't seem to have power to be able to. So Renee, you're just going to have to re-click the links. I'm going to have to kick you from the studio and re-click in the links.
Debbie, I want to hear what you've got going on.
Yeah, Deb, what are you doing?
I only support every one of you who is willing to do this on a daily basis, because I do have another job, but I do love when I can get on and support and follow and contribute. And that's always my goal, is just to be a good friend.
What about you, Brother Jones?
My job's just to keep Gene on the straight and narrow and to watch all of his episodes.
That's right. Me and Brother Jones, we're going to do a travel log show. When I was visiting in, we'll say, the Far East, we saw some temples. We were so invigorated with temples, the temple work. We saw 900-year-old temples that are massive, that would put any LDS temple to shame.
That would be so awesome. Yeah, they do too. They knew how to build them right back then. Yeah,
absolutely.
Earthquake.
No cleaning clue required.
Okay, Renee wants to say something.
Oh, I was just saying, where the temples in Thailand undergoing, earthquake prevention, foundation repair.
I have a funny story. I have a funny story. 30 seconds. My mother-in-law she doesn't know much at all about the church. And when I told her that the new temple here was undergoing a 2-week closing for cleaning after 6 months, she immediately said, "That sounds like a racket."
Oh.
Imagine a 4-year renovation. Cough, cough, 6.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Oh my.
You
And
know
then
who the people who are really getting rich are those contractors who are building all of these temples.
I want to see
In my next life, I want to be a cement contractor.
Are those contractors related? Are they?
Well, in my next life, I'm going to be the prophet. Go big or go home. I want the money.
I'm going to be the interior designer that came up with those green couches and that wallpaper, because I'm going to get paid every time that same design gets used in a building all across the world.
Clever girl. Yeah, I like
There you
that.
go.
In the next life, let's all create a religion and a temple. We got an interior designer, we got a contractor, we got an architect, we're good.
We've got a prophet that can announce new temples all the time to keep all you guys employed.
That's right. Who needs revelation? All we need is some city names.
Right.
Well, thanks everybody for watching. Like,
Thank you,
subscribe,
Gene.
and share. Check
Thank
out
you,
all
Gene.
the shows that are represented here.
A lot
And
of
thanks
fun.
everyone for coming. And I will end the stream and say goodbye. And then we can still chat afterwards.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Lots of fun.